The Philadelphia 76ers process was never just a basketball strategy. It was a cult of personality. It was a decade of intentional losing, of high-stakes gambling, and of a city's unwavering faith that if they suffered enough, they would be rewarded with a dynasty. And for a moment, it looked like the gamble had paid off. They had the crown jewels. On one side, you had Joel Embiid, a 7'2" force of nature from Cameroon, who learned the game late but mastered it with a terrifying old-school physicality. On the other, you had Ben Simmons, a 6'10" Australian savant with the passing vision of Magic Johnson and the athleticism of a young LeBron James. They were supposed to be the Shaq and Kobe of the East. They were the two pillars that would hold up a championship trophy for the next decade. But by the summer of 2021, those pillars hadn't just cracked, they had detonated. Most people point to one single play in a Game 7 against the Atlanta Hawks as the start of the end. But the truth is much darker. The passed-up dunk wasn't the beginning of the fire. It was just the moment the oxygen finally hit a room that had been filled with gasoline for 5 years. This is the story of a slow-burning cultural resentment between a blue-collar superstar who gave his blood to a city and a Hollywood lifestyle point guard who refused to grow. This is the definitive anatomy of betrayal. This is how Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons became sworn enemies. The Genesis: 2 worlds, 1 locker room. To understand why the process failed, you have to understand the fundamental psychological gap between its two stars. Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons didn't just play differently, they lived differently. Joel Embiid arrived in Philadelphia as a mystery. He sat out his first 2 years with foot injuries. He spent those years grieving the death of his brother, drinking Shirley Temples, and engaging in Twitter wars. But when he finally stepped on the court, he became the soul of Philadelphia. He embraced the villain role. He played through broken faces, torn ligaments, and stomach flus. He was the process personified, raw, emotional, and willing to die on the hardwood for a win. Then there was Ben Simmons. Ben arrived as the golden child. He was the consensus #1 pick, a prodigy who had been told he was the next one since he was 15. While Embiid's journey was defined by struggle and adaptation, Ben Simmons' journey was defined by comfort. He was a celebrity before he was an all-star. He moved in circles with the Kardashians. He spent his off-seasons in Los Angeles building his brand, while his jump shot remained exactly the same as it was in high school. The friction started early, though it was masked by winning. In the locker room, the veterans saw it first. Embiid wanted to be pushed. Simmons wanted to be protected. The 76ers organization made a fatal mistake. They chose to accommodate Ben's limitations rather than challenge them. They traded away Jimmy Butler, the one man who was willing to tell Ben to his face that he needed to grow up because the friction was too much for Ben. They moved Embiid, a dominant post player, out to the three-point line to give Ben space to drive to the rim. Think about that. The best center in the league was being asked to change his entire game to cater to a point guard who refused to shoot the ball. Embiid felt the disrespect. He felt the weight of carrying a franchise while his co-star refused to do the one thing necessary for them to win a title: evolve. The slow rot, spacing, and silence. By 2019, the brotherhood was a corporate myth. On the court, the chemistry was clunky. Off the court, it was non-existent. While other superstar duos were vacationing together or working out in the summer, Embiid and Simmons were on opposite ends of the planet. Embiid would occasionally drop breadcrumbs in the media. He'd talk about how spacing is tough, or we need everyone to be aggressive. Everyone knew who he was talking about. He was watching his prime years vanish while his teammate refused to take a shot from 10 feet away. Simmons, in turn, felt targeted. He felt that Embiid's dominance was taking away his ability to be the primary playmaker. He felt that the city of Philadelphia was too mean. He retreated into a small circle of yes men in Los Angeles. He stopped listening to the coaching staff. He became a basketball enigma, a defensive genius who was terrified of the free throw line. The 2020-2021 season was the peak of the tension. Embiid was playing at an MVP level. He was doing everything, but the pressure was mounting. The 76ers were the #1 seed in the East. It was championship or bust. And in the second round, they met the Atlanta Hawks. The breaking point. The pass. Visual. The footage starts June 20th, 2021, Game 7, Wells Fargo Corrente. The tension in the building is so thick you can see it on the fans' faces. The score is 88-86, Hawks leading. There are 3 minutes and 30 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Narrator. This is the moment. Ben Simmons receives the ball in the post. He spins. He has a wide open lane to the basket. He is 6'10". The only person between him and the rim is Trae Young, a 6'1" guard who weighs 100 pounds less than him. Instead of dunking the ball, instead of asserting his dominance, Ben Simmons passes it. Visual. The camera zooms in on Joel Embiid's face in the background. His arms are up. He is literally stunned. He watches the ball go to Matisse Thybulle, who gets fouled. The energy in the arena doesn't just drop. It curdles. The 76ers lost that game, and in the post-game press conference, the years of repressed resentment finally exploded. When a reporter asked Joel Embiid where the game turned, he didn't give a cliché answer. He told the truth. He said, "I'll be honest, I thought the turning point was when we had an open shot and we made 1 free throw." He didn't say Ben's name. He didn't have to. 10 minutes later, head coach Doc Rivers was asked if Ben Simmons could be a championship point guard. His answer was, "I don't know the answer to that right now." For Ben Simmons, this was the ultimate betrayal. He had played through the series, he had defended, he had tried in his own way. To have his brother and his coach throw him under the bus on national television was a wound that would never heal. But for Embiid, it wasn't a betrayal. It was an eviction notice. He was done being the only one who cared about the results. The war, the holdout, and the phone. What followed was the most bizarre, toxic, and expensive holdout in the history of the NBA. Ben Simmons demanded a trade. He refused to show up to training camp. He stopped taking calls from Embiid. He stopped talking to the front office. He claimed he wasn't mentally ready to play in Philadelphia again. The city of Philadelphia, known for its brotherly love, turned into a furnace. Fans burned jerseys. Sports talk radio became a 24-hour roast of Ben Simmons. And Embiid, he didn't hold back. The roster is built around his needs. At this point, I don't care about that man. He does whatever he wants, Embiid told the media. When Simmons finally did show up to practice, mostly to avoid losing millions in fines, it was a circus. Visual, a grainy cell phone footage of a 76ers practice. Ben Simmons is wearing a jersey, but he looks like he's at a bus stop. He has a cell phone in his pocket. He refuses to join the team huddle. He's bouncing a ball with one hand, looking at the ceiling. It was a middle finger to the organization. It was a middle finger to Embiid. Doc Rivers eventually had enough and threw him out of practice. The next day, Embiid was asked about it. He laughed. He was over it. The divorce was finalized in February 2022 when Simmons was traded to Brooklyn Nets for James Harden. The process era was officially over. In the aftermath, a legacy in ruins. In the years since the trade, the trajectories of these two men couldn't be more different. Embiid stayed in Philly. He won an MVP. He continued to be the king of the North, even if the championship ring still eludes him. He has become a legend of the city, a man who will likely have his jersey retired in the rafters because he never ran from the smoke. Ben Simmons, meanwhile, became a ghost. His time in Brooklyn was defined by back injuries, mental health absences, and a complete disappearance of the all-star talent he once had. By 2025 and 2026,